What's up, and welcome back to Interpret the Stars, where today we're going to be taking a look at the 2019 horror film Midsommar, which was directed by Ari Aster rather. Had people not talked about this movie so much, it probably would have been skipped on my radar, because when it comes down to directors, I often don't connect them to films unless they're incredibly well known, like Spielberg, Whedon, J.J. Abrams, or even M. Night Shyamalan, people with a long history of creating visions and making them a reality. Ari Aster made one movie before, which was last year's Hereditary, but that one movie stuck out. It may have been his directorial debut, but Hereditary went places no other film had before, and it was done incredibly well at the same time. Ari Aster made a name for himself by being someone who took bold steps and unashamedly made his audiences feel uncomfortable. Critics love him for it, audiences are usually mixed, and the same can probably be said for Midsommar, which does essentially the same exact thing, just tenfold. To give you an idea what this film's about, it follows around a young woman named Dani who, along with a group of male friends, heads out to Sweden to a mysterious midsummer festival, headed up by a lot of people that kind of feel like a mix between hippies and cult followers. It's there where she learns Sweden's a weird spot on the planet where it hardly ever gets dark, so the sun shines at 9 p.m. for instance. Slowly but surely, weird things begin happening around her that can't be explained. It is wrong for these things to happen, or is it possibly just their culture? I don't want to give too much away about this movie because there's a lot that happens in the film that could potentially spoil you. Heck, if I say the wrong thing, I could turn you off the idea of watching it overall, so I'll just stick to some broad ideas. Some of you know that when I review a film, I have a spreadsheet with a ton of different categories and subcategories and blah, 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 all of which are independently ranked up to 100 possible stars. And at the end of that is what I give the film as a whole. The main reason I do that is because apart from giving a film a final score, I can also rank the strengths and weaknesses a film has based off of different categories. In Midsommar's case, the strongest category ranked is undoubtedly the BTS or behind the scenes category, which covers visuals, cinematography, editing, advertisement, and the music and sound. This, of course, is mostly to be expected. Like Hereditary, there's a lot of focus on how this film operated from a technical level in order to elicit a certain response from the audience. These things were approached differently, but they were both really good. As far as visuals were concerned, they worked pretty hard on lighting, production design, costume, hair, and practical effects. This is a very bright film, which is fine and dandy, but because it's a horror film, that brightness helped the film feel odd. We expect darkness from horror. Keeping things in the sunlight makes us immediately feel uneasy because we're pretty much ingrained with the idea that if we're scared, we turn on the lights. So they get the idea pretty early on that there is no escape. The light won't save you. Production design is apparent given the fact that the landscape is beautiful, and that's almost a character itself. The practical effects is also something Ari Aster seems to be an expert in, as he did something very similar in Hereditary. I just say there's probably more of it in Midsommar. That feeling that you can't escape continues into the cinematography and editing because Ari Aster utilizes a filming technique where he follows around a subject in the film, doesn't cut, doesn't look away, even when terrible things start happening. This is something that works really, really well for horror films because it's a more practical approach to the concept that the audience can't escape. You can look away, but there's a good chance that when you look back, it'll still be filming that terrible thing happening, whatever that may or may not be. The music and sound. There's a lot of focus on sound in this film, and I really appreciated what they did with it. They consistently used the sound of a chorus to extend the feeling of uneasiness. This chorus was edited in and out throughout the film as tension rose. It's not the loud boom of jump scares, but rather the constant buzz that we often feel when we're scared or timid. The other categories on my spreadsheet were all scored relatively similar. There were plenty of moments in this film that surprised me on a number of levels. I wouldn't say it's as crazy as some other critics put it out to be, but it is up there. I would probably say the worst rated category on my spreadsheet, though, is the people category, which covers acting, characters, casting, importance, and chemistry. It should be noted that this category didn't receive a terrible rating or anything. It simply could have benefited off of different things. Florence Pugh does an amazing job in this film when it comes down to the acting. She really does. It shows so much acting range. I was often floored. However, when it comes down to the people category as a whole, that's really all I can say about the positives. When I watch films, I like to be able to distinguish everyone independently. There's a lot of people on screen, and they're all working very hard on what they're doing, and I want to give them all credit by picking them apart, one by one, and explaining what everyone does well. I can't say that about this movie. You have a big group of cult-like individuals that are all blending together. They're all trying to do something very similar, so they're all operating like a huge hive mind. Then you have the American group that traveled to Sweden in the first place, and they're also kind of blending together. The only person that stands out is Florence Pugh's character. A big part of the reason is because there's not a lot of weight on the backstories of these characters, and nobody is actually trying to do anything. It falls victim to a ton of other horror films where you have a lot of main characters that are experiencing weird things occurring, but they're also kind of dumb because nobody's actually trying to do anything about it. They're not trying to stop them. They're not trying to escape. They're not doing anything but observing, which makes their characters a bit two-dimensional. Diving a little bit deeper into these characters, you realize the thing or things that brought them to Sweden in the first place was more of a gimmick than anything, an explanation as to why they go to Sweden. Once they get there, these backstories are mostly abandoned in order for the weirdness to transpire. It's certainly not a perfect film. It does a lot right when it comes down to technical areas behind the scenes, but a film is only as strong as its characters in the end. And that's why a score I gave this film was 78%, 78 out of 100 possible stars. If you're wondering where that ranks in my 2019 horror film list, in second place, right below Netflix's The Perfection, which, by the way, is also a crazy movie. Guys, tell me what you thought about Midsommar in the comments down below. As for YouTube, make sure that you hit subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. But until then, peace out!